have that much skill, but he's got power, and you know if he catches you, it could be lights out. And Beverly is wild. We've seen him hurt guys in the past. I think somewhat inadvertently, like Russell Westbrook a few years ago when he headbutted Devin Booker, just because he's always he's wild. And so I think that he is playing great defense, and it's bothering Devin Booker. Booker 5 for 21. That's his second worst shooting performance of his career, regular season or playoffs. And so Beverly's messing with him. I also think the mask and the broken nose might be bothering him. One guy in the league told me this morning he thinks that Booker's just going to take that thing off and toss it into the stands at some point during this series. So I think that's bothering him. He's a young player, first time in the playoffs. Now he's got a broken nose. And then I'm going to throw this at you guys. Chris Paul, obviously great, but they played a lot slower with him. We talked about how the Suns are a different animal than Utah and Dallas because of their athleticism. Well, now that athleticism isn't shining as much because Cam Payne's not there, and he was too fast. He was getting in the lane at will. And Chris plays at a slower pace, so the athleticism isn't as evident as it was in the first two games. So I think it was the defense that allowed him to withstand Paul George. You had a good game, but he still missed 17 to 26 shots. So defense got it done.
I agree. That's what I opened up with. I thought the three-guard lineup with Patrick Beverly and Terrence Mann getting into Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they shot 10 of 40. 10 of 40. They got outscored by Patrick Beverly and Reggie Jack. You can't have that. Devin Booker and Chris Paul cannot allow the starting backcourt of the Clippers to outscore them. They can't. And they locked him up. And like you said, Chris, if the officials are going to let Patrick Beverly play, well, you got to look. If you leave your door open, flies are going to continue to come in. I don't care how much bug spray you use. You're going to have to do something about it. Close the door. So if the officials are not going to blow that whistle, Patrick Beverly going to be right there in your job. He's going to play old school basketball like Skip, like they played in the 80s and 90s, how they let you get physical. And we saw that. We saw a little bit of that in game 2. And 3, I didn't even know referees had whistles because they just let them play. They was pushing on, they was running over each other, and the officials like, get up, play on. That's a play on. And so I thought the defense was because if you think about it, they held them to under 39% shooting from the floor, 31% from the 3. That's defense because the Clippers only shot 45%, only shot 35% from the 3. So, and you held them to 92 points. A Suns team that can get up and get down the court with anybody, they got 92 points. So I agree with you. That's what I said before. Zubac was unbelievable in the first half. He gave you a double-double in the first half. A big man, finally outplayed DeAndre Ayton because he played to a standstill with Yoke, and he outplayed the bigs in L.A. This was the first time that I really feel that he got outplayed by Zubac. So give them credit. Give Ty Lue. I call him Don Toretto from the Fast and the Furious. He's always tinkering with his lineup, trying to find a way to improve it, to get it faster, to get it better, and it worked.
Like that analogy. By the way, to your point, a game high plus 28 was Big Zoo.
Big Zoo.
Game high plus 28. A game worst, minus 25, was DeAndre Ayton. Who saw that coming?
Right.
That was actually a big difference in the outcome, was that Big Zoo outplayed a much more gifted big man in DeAndre Ayton.
In the past 2 series, Skip, he didn't play a lot. Zoo didn't play a lot. Now look at him.
So, Chris, you and I have liked this Clippers team enough that we both picked the Clippers, obviously, do or die last night, backs to wall, to win that game. Yet, if you had told me yesterday that my Clippers would shoot 3 of 17 from 3 after leading the league in three-point shooting, they'd go 3 of 17 in the first half. If you told me that Marcus Morris, and Chris and I have agreed all year long, they weirdly sort of go as he goes, especially with his three-point shooting, that he wouldn't even be able to start the game last night. And I think even though that was a sweet switch on Ty's part, I think it was just it was essential that you do it like he had no choice.
Right.
I think Marcus Morris couldn't go big minutes last night because he's got some kind of knee ailment that is making him a shell of himself. And if you told me that the guy we all have called Playoff Rondo would come in and play 8 minutes and start with an 8-point lead and turn it over 3 times in 8 minutes in the second quarter to the point I'm tweeting, get Rondo out of there, and blow the whole 8-point lead back to a no-point lead, I would say, good night, Clippers. They're down 0-3, and even the Clippers can't come back out of that hole. And obviously, they stormed back in the third quarter. Would they win it like 34 to 21? 34 to 21 in the third quarter. And they mostly did it because they imposed their will physically on the visitors. They beat them on the boards. They beat them pretty badly. It was 51 to 43 on the boards. But in the third quarter, they took it over defensively and in attack mode. And Paul George attacked all night long. And Chris, I told Shannon this earlier. Do you realize that Paul George has played 129 more minutes in the playoffs than any other player on any team? He's played 147 more minutes than the second Clipper, who is Reggie Jackson. I thought by the fourth quarter last night, he was flat out on fumes. And he started to turn the ball over, and they look like tired turnovers. They look like completely out of gas. And it got to the point where all of a sudden an 18-point lead early in the fourth quarter nearly disappeared down to a 6-point lead. There was an ugly turnover by Paul George, and all of a sudden, Devin Booker has the ball in his hands, about to shoot a 3 that could have cut it to 3. What would you have thought at that point?
Make that shot, it's over.
Hey, seriously, would Phoenix not just re-seize control?
Yep.
Yeah, and would it have felt like same old Clippers blowing another big lead? And what happened if we could see that one play that this is the play of the night that Pat Beverly made on Devin Booker? Yeah. This is it's just extraordinary because he comes off the little screen and he goes up to shoot the 3 and Pat just knocks it right out of his hands on the way up.
Right.
A la what he did to LeBron on Christmas Day at the end of the game 2 years ago. Remember that? That's what Pat Bev does. That's just savvy and skill. That's just playing all over Europe, learning how to play basketball. And that turned the game around. And then here's the other point I made earlier, Chris. Here came Reggie Jackson. And this is the same Reggie Jackson who Doc Rivers barely played last year against Denver as they melted down with a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Reggie Jackson in Game 5 was a DNP. Doc didn't even play him. In Game 6, as they blew a 19-point lead, he played 59 seconds at the end of the game in garbage time mop-up duty. And then in Game 7, he managed 4 minutes in the first half, but none in the second half or fourth quarter. Well, he just wasn't in the rotation for Doc. And Ty Lue said, I'll take that. Not only will I take him, I will play him big fourth quarter minutes, and I will put the ball in his hands. Right. And so Reggie proceeds to just take the game over with big 3-point shots.
He took it over.
He was the closer last night.
He took it over last night.
He took it over down the stretch. And my point has been, last year in the bubble, Kawhi and Paul George had poor closing chemistry because they just kept looking at each other like, are you going to go or am I going to go? Are you going to try to create a shot by yourself or should I create one by myself? And somehow the chemistry clicks with Reggie at the point and Paul driving the ball into the lane and kicking to open shooters. They just have a better flow and feel and confidence to them without Kawhi. Are they better without? Obviously, they're not better overall without Kawhi Leonard, but their closing chemistry is lethal now without him. Right. And that's what I love about this team. Last year's team would have blown that game last night.
Go ahead, Chris.
It may be that because Kawhi is clearly their best player, and obviously he's gotten it done in the clutch before, he's got his 2 championships, finals MVPs, they may over-defer to Kawhi.
Yep,
late,
that's
right?
true.
They're looking for him to kind of get it done, and you're our first option every time down the floor. And I think now it's more, obviously Reggie and Paul are the closers, but still, it's more of an equal opportunity down the stretch. Reggie Jackson, and I say this kind of tongue-in-cheek, he's going to cause somebody to overpay for him next year. Like, he's going to probably get another big contract based on what he's doing in these playoffs because he is playing great basketball. He's playing like he's an all-star.
He is.
That's really how he's been playing in the playoffs.
But if you think about it, I think the thing that's helped the Clippers, they're kind of used to playing without Kawhi. With that load management, that definitely helps. It's not like LeBron playing every night, then all of a sudden he's not there. It's not like that with AD, all of a sudden he's not there. Kawhi's going to miss a game here, going to miss a game there. And so Doc has to tinker with his lineup to try to find a lineup. Okay, this guy, and Marcus had some issues earlier